The soft golden hues of the afternoon sun filtered through the curtains of my suburban California home. It was a quiet Saturday, the kind I used to love when my son was little. But now that Tyler was a college sophomore, the house only echoed on most days. Today, though, was different. Tyler had come home for the weekend and brought a couple of friends with him, one of whom I hadn't seen in years, Landon Hayes. Landon had grown up just down the street and practically lived in our house throughout middle and high school. He and Tyler had been inseparable until graduation. But Landon had moved to Chicago for college and I hadn't seen him since. Now here he was, taller, broader, confident in a way that made me pause for just a second too long when he stepped inside. He greeted me with a smile that was both familiar and startling. "Mrs. Carson. Well, you haven't aged a day." I laughed nervously. "That's sweet of you to say, Landon. And you look so grown up." Tyler chimed in from behind him. "Yeah, Mom, he hits the gym like every day now. You should see him eat. He'll clear your fridge by tomorrow." "Great," I said, smiling, though my eyes were still catching glimpses of Landon as he walked past, his duffel bag slung over his shoulder and his muscles filling out his t-shirt like he was cut from a magazine. The rest of the day passed in a blur of laughter, music from the backyard speaker, and endless food. The boys grilled burgers and played pool. I stayed mostly in the kitchen, slipping outside once or twice with lemonade and snacks. Every time I walked past Landon, I caught him watching me. Not in the usual way someone politely acknowledges their friend's parent. No, this was something else. His gaze lingered, intense and unreadable. It gave me a strange kind of thrill I hadn't felt in a long time. That evening, Tyler and the others decided to head into town to meet up with some local friends. I expected Landon to go with them, but he didn't. "You're not going?" I asked, surprised, as he flopped down on the living room couch with a drink in hand. "Nah," he said, kicking off his sneakers. "I kinda wanted a quiet night. Been doing the bar scene way too much. Hope you don't mind me sticking around." "Of course not," I said. "Make yourself at home." We chatted for a while. I sipped a glass of wine while Landon told me about school, internships, and how cold Chicago was. His voice had changed, deeper now. And he had this way of looking at me while he talked, like I was the most interesting thing in the room. I stood up to tidy the kitchen. He followed me. "Need help?" he asked. "You don't have to," I said. "I want to," he replied, stepping closer. His hands brushed mine when he reached for a plate. My heart did something strange in my chest. "I still remember your cookies," he said, leaning on the counter. "You used to bake the best ones. Chocolate chip, right?" I smiled. "You always ate half the batch before they cooled." He laughed, and for a moment, it felt like the past had folded into the present. But the way he was looking at me now, it wasn't like a kid remembering his friend's mom. It was a man standing just inches away, his eyes gliding down my neckline and resting there a beat too long. "I used to think you were the most beautiful woman in the world," he said softly. "Still do, actually." I froze. "Landon." "I'm serious, Mrs. Carson. You were always so kind. And gorgeous." I remember thinking, no way is that Tyler's mom. He chuckled. "And now, standing here, you're even more." He didn't finish the sentence. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, the way his voice wrapped around me like a thread pulling tight. I turned away, rinsing a glass at the sink, pretending to ignore the way my pulse was pounding. "You should get some rest," I murmured. "I will," he said. "But first, can I tell you something?" I looked at him, my breath catching. "What?" "I came back with Tyler this weekend because I knew you'd be here. I remembered how I used to watch you from the hallway, how you moved, how you smiled. I haven't stopped thinking about you." His voice was low, edged with something that made my knees unsteady. "Landon, I'm your friend's mother." "Exactly," he said, stepping closer. "But I'm not a kid anymore. And I don't see you as just Tyler's mom. I see you." The silence thickened between us. His hand touched mine, lightly at first, then with intent. My fingers didn't pull away. "I know this is crazy," he whispered. "But I've waited a long time to be alone with you. Just to tell you how I feel." I didn't know what to say. My heart was galloping. 1,000 reasons told me to step back. But there was one louder voice inside, my own desire, long buried, now screaming to the surface. He leaned in slowly. I could have stopped him. Should have. But I didn't. His lips brushed mine, soft, testing, like he wasn't sure I'd let him. But I didn't move. And when he kissed me again it was with certainty. His mouth was warm, hungry, awakening something deep inside me. I gasped slightly, my back against the counter, his body pressing just close enough that I could feel the tension in every part of him. When I finally broke the kiss I whispered, "This is insane." "But it doesn't feel wrong," he said. It didn't. Not when he touched my face so gently. Not when his thumb traced the corner of my lips. It felt like being seen for the first time in years. We stood there, caught in a suspended moment until I pulled away and turned off the kitchen light. "I'm going upstairs," I said, voice shaking slightly. "Good night, Landon." "Good night," he said, his eyes locked on mine. I walked up the stairs, every step echoing with what had just happened. I closed the door to my bedroom, leaning against it, breathless. But an hour later, when I heard the light knock at my door, my heart leapt. I opened it without asking who it was. Landon stood there in a plain white t-shirt and joggers, his hair messy, eyes darker than before. "I couldn't sleep," he said. "Neither could I." He stepped in, closing the door behind him. The room felt like it was holding its breath. So were we. When he kissed me again it wasn't tentative. It was heat and need and a longing that had simmered beneath the surface for far too long. His hands knew just where to rest. On my hips, my waist, my lower back. I felt alive in ways I hadn't in years. Every kiss, every whisper between us lit something forbidden and electric. We didn't cross every line that night. But what we shared, touches that lingered, kisses that deepened, hands exploring the edges of temptation, it left me breathless and aching for more. And it was enough to know this wasn't just a reckless moment. There was something real behind it. In the early hours he slipped out quietly before Tyler returned. The next morning I made breakfast while trying to act normal. Tyler and the guys were oblivious. Landon caught my eye across the kitchen and smiled. A private smile that made my heart skip. For the rest of the weekend he was just Tyler's friend again. But every glance, every brush of fingertips when we passed in the hallway, carried the secret we now shared. When they packed up to leave Sunday afternoon, Landon pulled me aside while Tyler loaded the car. "Can I come back?" he asked. I looked into his eyes. "Are you sure you want to?" "I've never been more sure of anything." And in that moment I knew this story wasn't over. It was just beginning.